question. If I were typing the Vietnam paper, it would be, was the U.S. justified in fighting the Vietnam War? Question mark. What's your question? What is it? Type it word for word. That's your first sentence. That's your hook. Now, I realize that I am talking to a bunch of students in here, and I see a bunch of you actually, who are good at this thing called writing. You're good at it. I invite you to tweak your hook later. For now, just keep it as the question. But maybe later you want to make the hook slightly more interesting. I challenge you. Make your hook more interesting. If you're not interested in making it more interesting, fine. Just put the question. Ready? Thumbs up when you're ready for sentence number 2.
No.
Sentence number 2, 3, and 4 would be the argument for the side you disagree with, right? If I think the U.S. should have been involved in Vietnam, what I will do then is explain the views of those people who don't think the U.S. should have been in Vietnam. I think we should have, but what I'm going to do is acknowledge the arguments for the side that do not think so. Yes, I think, but some people think the U.S. was not justified for 2 reasons, period. First of all, blah, 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 period. Second of all, blah, 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 period. You do the same thing. I need you to, in the next couple minutes, write 3 more sentences. The first of these 3, this would be sentence number 2, would be pointing out that some people think the side you don't agree with for 2 reasons, period. And then you list each reason in its own sentence, period, period. Now, before I completely let you go and float, where are you going to get these 2 reasons?
Up your butt.
Where?
Those article summaries.
In your article summaries. There they are. It's number
9.
9. It's number 9. There it is. Find the 2 articles that are arguing the side you disagree with. You already retrieved them. Get them. Look at them. Number 9. And then number 9. That's 9 twice. That's 9, 9. That's German saying no.
Twice.
9. 9.
That's twice.
Don't worry about being super creative. Just list the reasons. Stop laughing at me. You remind me of my childhood. I'm going to hope and draw a picture of Will and then stab it with my pencil. Then I'll feel better. Oh, another video that will not be posted on the website.
If you don't post
Hey,
this,
no, you can still post
if you
it.
don't post this, I'm gonna
I renounce any claim to any future lawsuits.
There, everything will be fine now.
What'd you say? I laughed at him.
Right now, you are busy typing the arguments, the 2 arguments for the side you do not agree with. I acknowledge right now there are some of you only did 1 article for and 1 argument against. That's fine. Then just give me 1 argument. Some people think so because, and then just list the argument. Number 9 is the reason, right? What reason is the quote supporting? What's your topic?
Should immigrants who are in the country illegally be allowed to?
And what do you think? Okay, so but you'll acknowledge that some people think they should be. Why?
by
2 reasons.
my number 9, and it is
Whatever those 2 reasons are.
they help and work
Great.
in places that may affect the
And then make sure each reason gets its own sentence.
however, or no, not
No, some people think they should be allowed to remain for 2 reasons, period. First of all, they help the economy, period. Second of all, whatever. Yes, please.
So I think I've messed up pretty big.
You done messed up, Aaron.
I think I did. Yeah, so it says, this question is like, how do you start effectively to
Uh-huh.
I wouldn't be targeted to say I don't know where.
Is this one?
Okay, thumbs up. You're ready. You've written 4 sentences. No. Okay, let's go. Let's rock. Who would win between a hurricane and Coach Ditka? Hold on.
Torture.
The name of the hurricane
Torture
is
is
Hurricane
torture is
Ditka.
my bad.
Oh,
What do you
Ben,
think it is?
Ben,
It's better than just asking a
what are
question.
you doing?
Yeah. I'll have to change at my beginning. Does it matter, Will?
It's just like crouching behind the.
He's taking snaps from there. Because it freaks
I am going to
Ben
start
W
talking
out.
again
I don't
in
know.
1 minute.
Han.
I think we should nuke
Yeah, that's a bit destroy. Just wipe it out. Get rid of that in Eastern Germany. All the problems of the world are gone.
Eastern Germany?
I mean, Eastern
Like
Europe.
Eastern Europe.
Yeah, you're right.
Anything east of Germany.
And China? Might as well. You know, while we're at it, Pakistan.
Pakistan's part of the world.
And Sub-Saharan Africa.
you construct by.
Once they're gone, there's no more problems.
All the problems are gone, Will.
Great minds think alike. You know that, Potter. People are
I'm talking in 30 seconds.
suspected terrorists is unjustifiable
20.
because what?
We did a good a day, too.
Did you? How was it?
That's great.
10.
We went there with Will,
I went home.
Colton, Kate, Eugene, and Gabe.
Came home.
I am assuming that you are ready, that we are on sentence number 5.
Good.
Sentence number 5 is where you introduce the concept that others
Yep.
believe the answer should be the answer that you agree with. So for me, I'm writing the Vietnam paper, and I'm pretending that I think the U.S. was justified. I just spent 3 sentences explaining why some people believe the U.S. was not justified, and now I say, however, there are those who believe the U.S. was justified for 2 reasons, period. You'll notice that sentence number 5, does not list any reason. It simply argues that there were reasons, period. And then in the next 2 sentences, that would be sentence 6 and 7, each sentence gets its own reason. So right now, you have the responsibility of writing the next 3 sentences. That's sentence 5 and 6 and 7. 5 is arguing that there are people who believe that the answer should be whatever. 6 is listing the reason, the first reason. 7 is listing the second reason. That's 3 sentences. Off you go.
Potter, can I do what I do in my CIS papers and just kind of merge those like 3 sentences? Some
No.
people think that because this, and this. Okay.
Yes. Again, I acknowledge that there are many people in this room who are good at this writing thing. And
Oh yeah.
this is not where there's only one way to do this. I know, I see many of you. You're going to call me over and say, hey, can I do this instead? Generally, the answer is going to be, yep. You're good at this writing thing. You know what you're doing.
We'll do whatever it takes.
That's the great thing about writing. That's the great thing about taking an essay test rather than an objective test. An objective test, you better know the answer is B. That's it. There's no way to finagle C. But an essay test, you can say, well, this is another way to get to the end result. Awesome. I've seen this 100 million billion times. I don't know why students do this. You write an essay and you acknowledge right in your essay, I don't know what this is, but, well, then why are you talking about it? Only talk about what you know in an essay.
First,
2 minutes. I will start talking in 2 minutes.
first of all, Sam, did you finish all your articles on there?
Oh, but one.
What is the wall?
You?
Moving that
I need to do 2.
for the wall like here. Are we gonna-
Done.
That's a thesis.
Golf meets in a fun funeral.
Don't mean to say it like this, but this is the only way I can think of how to say it. Don't take it as a bad way, Ben. But who died now? It's your family.
No,
man.
it's honestly like that. Every month someone dies.
I mean, sorry, but that's how it seems.
So I'll draw a timeline. Or no,
It's right.
I'll draw like a little. This is how I had to go present it.
Isn't
Here,
someone?
pencil.
Isn't some
So
cousin
here's
never met?
here's me. Okay. Here's my mom.
Yeah.
Here's my
What should I do?
And-
Reason that torture is justified.
mom.
Yeah, what is just found?
Torture
Here's
Did
my
you find 2 reasons?
Oh, I found one.
Great.
That it says like do something kind of really to prevent a bunch of catastrophes.
Yeah.
So my great grandma, aka my grandma's sisters,
You are perfectly free to argue one time, and you're just writing.
Yeah.
Sure.
okay.
No problem.
Yeah, well, I can't remember. Okay. My grandma's family, okay? And she had
But what you could do is then you write 2 paragraphs arguing the same argument, but with different ones.
Lori had
Okay.
You'd write that
Bill.
second paragraph arguing the same reason with a topic sentence that goes something like this. Others agree.
You see this, Sam?
And then
So me, my mom, my grandma's sisters, daughter's kids. So they're a family. Okay.
Okay, I'll watch.
So there's me, there's my grandma. There's great grandma. Great grandma had all these kids.
Some gal.
One happened to be great grandma, I forget her name. She had Lori, and my grandma had mom. So they're cousins. Okay. And they had kids, and my mom had kids. So that makes me second cousin. So my friend Billy, or my second cousin Billy, he died.
okay, we're going
They got
to
him.
move on. Your
Oh,
This was
job now is to write
He
a
was 27
compound
years old.
thesis.
What?
27.
Yes.
Not a thesis,
He
a
had this
compound
really rare heart
thesis.
disease Where some ventricles.
That was on Friday.
So
did surgery,
a
and
compound
3 years
thesis
later,
is a sentence with a dependent clause and an independent
it was
clause.
on his heart, basically because of his heart.
Look at my compound thesis.
Your mom's a grandma.
My mom's dead.
Really?
While it appears that the U.S. was not justified because innocent civilians were killed and whatever the other reason was, comma, in truth, the U.S. was justified in participating in Vietnam because it helped the U.S. win the Cold War, and I don't even know what the other reason is, period. Do you see that the thesis has all 4 arguments in the sentence? 2 in the dependent clause, comma, 2 in the independent clause. The dependent clause goes first.
You said clause.
The argument that you disagree with is presented first with the words, while it appears that. While it appears that Will is smart because his ACT score is high and his GPA average
I got
is
18.
high, comma. In truth, he's an idiot because he annoys me.
I don't know if
Period.
that's a good reason to call
Will
somebody.
this video be on the webpage, Mr. Potter?
Okay.
Yeah,
Will
it's
this
all,
video be on the website?
I don't know.
Mr. Potter called me dumb, and I take offense.
it's because you
Nope,
are.
It won't be there.
I'm
However,
kidding.
because the camera's going that way, there's no evidence of what I'm about to do. Hey, everybody, look over there.
Let it be known as public record
Meanwhile,
that Mr. Potter assaulted me in class.
follow him, Will, follow him. Bring the video.
And such in like each individual paragraph. Like, are we breaking it up by argument or by article?
Well, I had you do an argument per argument.
Well, let it be known that I was kidding, and I do not take offense. And I renounce all rights to sue Summer High School, and any legal action may not be taken under my name or my parents or in the name of anything.
Without being like, this is what this one article is saying alone, and this is what the other one is saying. That probably didn't make any sense, but it makes sense in my head.
It makes sense to you. Great. Go.
Tyler, what do you think of this class?
I love it.
So while it appears that
Help.
immigrants should be allowed to remain in the country,
This is just CIS, but easy mode.
Say that again?
This is just CIS history on easy mode.
No, it's not. It's not U.S. history though.
U.S. history.
Sorry.
I understand. Well, I understand that some of you are typing your thesis sentence and thinking, but it's repetitive.
see prom pictures?
I'm simply restating what I stated in the previous sentences. Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. Later, we can tweak it so it sounds original. But for now, just restate
That sucks.
the arguments that you made already.
Oh, okay.
Edit it later.
Yeah.
I think one of the criticisms I have of students when you write papers is you think you want to hit a home run with your first version, right? You type it and then you submit it. No,
Yeah.
you should be typing it and then looking at it and revising it and revising it and revising it and revising it. No, I'm not. When you are done typing the first paragraph, you don't have to put the computer away, but do please make sure it's saved and then close the computer so that I can present some things and then we can
Present some things out of sight of that computer.
no. And then we can resume
Where
You
can we
can
do
still
our
use that
20,
video.
20 facts about terrorist groups?
on Kia.
Yeah, it's on Kia.
Where?
It says
You have
world,
to
it
go to
says,
the
like,
link.
World in Conflict Terrorist Kia or something like that.
World in
Something like
Conflict
that, terrorism.
Presentations Kia.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That was easy.
I said on video that I renounce all rights to claim to sue Summer High School or its
That's a relief.
employees under my name or my parents' names. Yeah, I renounce my rights. So you're okay, Mr. Potter. Trust me. I'm a legal mind. You don't have to worry anymore. I'm good at this.
As typical.
Sam, you're dumb.
Dumber.
Excuse me?
Oh,
I just can't help it when these around sets. It's like
Put all my tickets in. Well, I mean, I knew it was going to be the most. I knew it was going to be the most.
These
popular
once noble Romans have rejected Sam. These once noble Romans have rejected virtue, honor, and dignity. They are perversion dwelling in our lands. They cannot be allowed to sully the hearts and minds of true Romans. They must be utterly eliminated. All record of them must be destroyed, and once gone, their very names must be damned forever.
What are you talking about?
My faction, that's what the Roman Senate thinks of me. They think I'm an enemy to the Republic. And
Because you are.
well, I mean, so what if I invaded the other? So what if I invaded all of the other Roman factions and took over the Republic and received it? They started it.
so
Okay.
where are you?
I'm red.
You're Rex.
Yeah.
Hey, Will, guess where my phone's at?
And Rome is the enemy. Rome, you're gonna destroy them.
Yeah,
Who are
I'm
these
red.
orange
Well,
guys?
they're still Scythians.
Who are these purple dudes?
Parthians.
Who are these green dudes?
They were Romans.
Look at that. He's working
They
on
were,
that.
I invaded them and pushed them into like Armenia. See, I started off. So when the Civil War began, I had this. I had all of this up here. So I had like Gaul, and I had Britannia. I had these islands here. I had these islands. I had Carthage. I had southern Greece, and these islands, and that was it, right? Then what happened is the Senate declared me an outlaw because I was too popular with people, and they're like, "You're an enemy of the Republic." And so I was like, "You fucking nation." So I started invading them. I also own the Spanish. So I own like all this, and a little bit of North Africa, all these islands.
Okay.
Not Sicily.
Will you do me the favor, extend your courtesy? Please close your computers so I know you're paying attention to me, because I am narcissistic and I need you to pay attention to me.
And then what happened was
That means shutting your
I own
computers
northern Italy.
so that they're
the
shut.
enemies owned southern Italy, Sicily,
Shutting them so
all
they're
of North
shut.
Africa, except for
You
Italy.
know,
They
shut.
owned up to
Shut.
like
Shut.
the Greek guys
There we
owned all
go.
of this, like up to here,
Shut.
they
As in
controlled
shut.
Anatolia,
Like close them.
all the Levant, and I invaded them because they declared me an outlaw.
You will have time in a minute
So, the
maybe 10
consequences were
to
swift.
resume, pick up where you left off. We're going to try and attack a paragraph per day. That's how we're going to do it. So rest assured, if you've done the 4 article summaries and if sort of you get it, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Okay. What we're going to start today is talking about something called the International Criminal Court. You are aware that something like 98% of all trials in this country, in the United States, are state trials. When you break the law, it's the state of Wisconsin that's going to take you on. If you cross over a state line, the federal government suddenly gets involved. But there are also these things called international laws. What if what you've done is legal in your country, but illegal on Earth? And as an example, I have this fella. What he did in the Yugoslav Civil War was legal. The Yugoslav government authorized what he did, which was terrible. But they violated international law. So what are you supposed to do when he is obeying the laws of his country, but disobeying the laws of Earth? And that's where this thing called the International Criminal Court steps in. There's the guy's name. I would never expect you to memorize that. It's just sort of interesting. This guy should really be better known. How many of you ever heard of this guy? I wouldn't expect anybody's ever heard of this guy. You're a liar.
I have. I watched a video on it.
He's the first guy since the Nazis
Haven't you watched the video?
to be held accountable in an
Genocide.
international court, right? So the Nuremberg trials said to the Nazis, it doesn't matter if you legalized what you were doing with the Jews. It doesn't matter. It was still wrong. You violated Earth's rules. And then, so Nuremberg happened after World War II. And then decades passed. And then this guy did what he did. And then the whole idea of an international criminal court popped up again.
Is this the dude who shelled the UN protected city,
No.
or was it the genocide?
No, this guy did a bunch of stuff. What we are going to discuss later on this week is, should the U.S. be part of an international criminal court? And I invite
we
you
are the
to debate me before your peers.
debate you.
I would like a group of 5-ish students. This is all gravy. If you volunteer, it's all extra credit.
Hey, but doesn't that punish people who
And
don't
we'll
volunteer?
debate Friday, this Friday. That's 2:10 to 3:10. We will debate. The question is, should the U.S. be part of an international criminal court? I will allow you to pick yes or no. I will automatically choose the other side. I will get ready, and we will rumble Friday before you, whoever's not part of this. So if you think, gee, I'd like to try that, I will accept nominations at the end of the hour if you want to be a part of that team. And then today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that group will have time to put together something. I will also put together something,
I need you. for
and then we
motion
will
support.
debate Friday. So think if you want to be part of that, and then think about which side you want to be on. Yes, the U.S. should be part of it, or the United States should not be part of it. Okay, back to this guy. What did he do? He was authorized by the Yugoslav government to rape Muslim women and murder Muslim men. This is the first example of genocide where there was they held these people accountable. So the Yugoslav Civil War was in the 1990s. And who did he do this to? People called POWs, prisoners of war, right? They were under the control of the Yugoslav army, and yet the soldiers, he was a soldier, engaged in the rape and murder of victims. And he was put on trial, first trial since Nuremberg. The question why was there that gap? I mean, surely genocides had happened between Nuremberg and the 1990s. We're talking about the late 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. Surely there were examples of genocide. Why was there that gap in international trials between Nuremberg and here? Any theories?
When they happened, they were supported by either the
Right.
U.S. or
What?
the Soviet Union.
What?
Well, when they happened, they were supported by either the U.S. or the Soviet Union.
I think you're exactly right that the Cold War had everything to do with it. That during the Cold War, if it was a genocide engaged in by a government supported by the U.S. simply vetoed any effort to create an international criminal court, and same thing with the Soviets. If there was some sort of a genocidal action on the part of a Soviet-supported government, the Soviets simply vetoed because they both had veto powers. Well, once the Cold War is over, no more direct confrontation between the two. Supposedly, they could sort of see eye to eye as far as examples of genocide. His big mistake was he left. He left Yugoslavia. Say, any of you plan on becoming a rapist and a murderer?
Uh-huh.
Do you plan on violating international law?
Yeah.
Here's a bit of advice. Do not leave the country that authorized you to engage in that behavior. Stay there. Because as long as you're in that country, you're untouchable. Right? Because who's going to arrest you? There is no secret United Nations robot army. Had he stayed in Yugoslavia, the only police force is the Yugoslav army. They're not going to arrest one of their own.
Well, at that point, what are you going to Yugoslavia?
But he foolishly left and went to Germany. The Germans immediately arrested him and turned him over to the International Criminal Court. There's another name that I'll tell you. His name is Bashir. He's the ruler of an African country. He's been under indictment from the International Criminal Court since 1998. He never leaves. He never leaves his home country, and he's untouchable. He's still the leader.
Let's go get him.
Now, when he goes to Disney World on a vacation, he's going to be in a little trouble. Okay?
Damn, you can't go to Disney World?
Just some historical background here. These are the Nuremberg trials. You're looking at the surviving Nazis. And it says here that Nazis and Japanese were held accountable. And the importance of Nuremberg was twofold. Number one, you can't just wage war. And remember in this class we said, well, as long as there's a war, your actions are justifiable. Nuremberg, the importance of Nuremberg was, nope, you can't just declare war and then rape and pillage.
Oh, why not?
That there are certain behaviors that are unacceptable, even in war, like waging an illegal war of aggression. And then the second crime is genocide. You can't just say, well, we're at war, now kill all the Muslims. You can't do that. That violates international laws. Of the 19 people sitting here, sorry, there were more than 19 convicted. Of those, 12 were executed by hanging.
They were hung.
Tokyo, same thing. These people were held accountable. And you can no longer use these arguments. Have you ever heard of these arguments? Right? They arrested a Nazi and they put him on trial. And what did the Nazi say? I was ordered to do it. I obeyed orders. There's my defense. I was told to do it. If you use that defense, it didn't work. Sorry, you should not have obeyed. Any of you plan on being in the military in the future? Any future soldiers? What if your commanding officer orders you to go and burn that village down? Are you obliged to obey your commanding officer?
Yeah, but there's also humanity reasons.
Gray area.
And the answer is
No.
no. As a matter of fact, you are obligated to disobey. Now, you will probably be court-martialed. But remember, all court-martialed means is you have a trial. And at that trial, you will say, look, he gave me an order. It was an immoral order. And hopefully the judges, because court-martial's tribunal, will see things your way. There's a chance they won't, but remember Vietnam, the My Lai massacre? Those soldiers were held accountable. Do you remember those pictures I showed you of the Iraqi prison? Those American soldiers were held accountable. We hold our soldiers accountable. The thing is, what about countries that do not hold their soldiers accountable? Who holds them accountable? The International Criminal Court holds them accountable. Okay? I am showing you, why is it that we've had no trials between 1945 and today? And now I'm showing you examples of genocide that have happened where there could have been a trial, but there wasn't. The Armenian genocide, this is World War I. I agree. This is before World War II. This is a poor choice. Sorry about that. How many of you are aware of something called the Cambodian genocide? By percentage, the worst genocide in human history. By percentage. Okay? You are looking at the photographs taken of people just before they were taken up back and shot. And then their human bones were put in piles for everyone to see. And it was the government that did this. Who holds them accountable? Now, during the Cold War, the answer was nobody. Nobody held them accountable. By the way, once the Cold War ended, they immediately found the Cambodians responsible for this and put them on trial at the International Criminal Court.
It only took 40 years.
The name of the group that did this was called the Khmer Rouge, right? Blah, blah, blah. Look at that percentage. 20% of Cambodia's population killed. If that had happened here, the American population is about 350 million. 20% of 350 million. That's about 70 million people. 70 million, if it were somewhat comparable.
Yeah.
How many of you have ever heard of the Rwandan genocide?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You can see one of the victims. This poor fella was attacked by a machete. They intentionally used machetes as a more personal, more brutal, more painful way of executing their victims. You can see he's been hacked several times, including part of his ear. This guy survived. The two groups were the Hutu and the Tutsi. 800,000 killed in a teeny little country in Africa. Who held these people accountable? Nobody. Nobody. Today they're going through an interesting process. Here's this Bashir guy. He's the leader of Sudan. He's still the leader of Sudan. And he never leaves his home country, or if he does, he goes to countries that he knows will not arrest him. But he's still the leader. He's not faced any sort of justice for what he's done. And you might ask, well, what did he do? He was the mastermind behind the wiping out of a group of people called African Sudanese in a place called Darfur. Any of you ever heard of Darfur? Does that ring a bell? Darfur, the Darfur massacre? He's the guy. He's the guy that thought of it. He's the Hitler of the situation. Never been held accountable. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. You get the idea that there have been all these examples of genocide, and if we don't have an international criminal court, the question is then who holds these people accountable? So having said that, you have the rest of the hour, about 15 minutes. If you would like to be on that team, I got to limit it to 5. So if it becomes more than 5, then I'm going to have to put your names in Mr. Fishbowl and then draw your name up. We'll have this debate Friday. And then you guys have to decide, do you want to argue it's a good idea or it is not a good idea? And I will automatically argue the other side. Otherwise, the rest of the hour is all yours. A whole lot of you have not taken test D. Now, it's not due yet. Ethan, when did you say it was due? This Friday. Yep, this Friday. So it's not in the grade book yet, but that's always out there. Okay. Any questions? All right. You have the rest of the hour. If you're interested, come on up and visit me.
I'll put my name in there.